The British High Court's recent ruling is allowing the United States' efforts to extradite and prosecute journalist Julian Assange to move forward. Now, their efforts continue to expose the hypocrisy of the establishment's mission to, quote unquote, spread democracy. And President Biden recently hosted a democracy summit. But if the Biden administration truly believed in democracy, including and especially freedom of the press, then he would immediately drop these charges against Julian Assange.
Free Assange, free Assange, free Assange. It's absolutely crazy that the United States government wants to extradite a non-American citizen for the crimes of doing actual journalism. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski here of wearechange.org, and we got a lot of absolutely crazy information to get into, as it looks like the new Times Person of the Year is making a very strong stance against the government, along, of course, with the U.S. Senator that is absolutely dropping very important truth bombs that we will be going over in this video specifically. But before we do that, we wanted to remind you how absolutely terrible the corporate media has been cheering on the extradition of Julian Assange, while, of course, attacking people in brazen ways for believing in bodily autonomy. This is perfectly represented by The Independent's latest piece that is titled, quote, "Hardcore Refuse-nicks who don't want to take a procedure, quote, could need de-radicalizing like terrorists." Now, talk about a crazy escalation, as of course similar language has been used in Australia, where local governments have said that aiding, abetting, and giving comfort to anyone who doesn't like lockdowns is akin to people being for the pain and suffering of others, when in reality the science says a completely different story. But when the corporate media is not dramatically calling for the extension of emergency powers for the state, they're also covering up what the state does in many horrific actions, as perfectly portrayed by this latest article by The Atlantic that talks about how there's a great fake child blank trafficking epidemic, as of course this as just recently powerful members, a part of CNN and the CIA, were caught committing these actions. The Atlantic, oh, it's all fake. It doesn't happen. As of course, the owner of that publication was just also recently seen cozying up to Miss Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, when the corporate media is not excusing some of the worst actions committed by some of the most powerful people in this world, they're also fear-mongering some absolute delusional thoughts, like perfectly represented by a recent New York Times piece by Charles Blow, who is warning that the United States is on the brink of a civil war and that white people will soon be targeting minorities, the LGBT community, and especially, quote, liberal women. Yeah, talk about taking divide and conquer to a new level. And as the corporate media keeps baiting you, keeps adding fuel to the fire of the divisions that keep separating average people who have more in common than they don't, based on trivial differences of their race, identities, and even made-up new slogans used to, of course, to have them fighting each other. All of this, in my opinion, is being done so you don't really see how you're being screwed over by politicians that promise you the world and literally deliver you hell. This, as Joe Biden previously made statements saying, quote, "Paying off your kid's student loan debt can feel overwhelming. We need a president who understands that," saying that when he was, of course, campaigning. And now he, of course, made an executive decision that he won't be extending student loan relief, but he will be increasing the U.S. debt ceiling, increasing defense military spending, as even on top of all of that, Senate Democrats are looking to increase the debt limit even more to the tune of trillions of dollars, which of course predominantly will go to the coffers of multinational corporations, a part of the pharma industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex, and a whole lot of other complexes out there that of course do not represent your best interest. The most greediest and egregious of all has to be the military industrial complex from my perspective, as of course they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on missiles that literally land on civilian and children who were a part of a U.S. aid effort helping people in Afghanistan, as recently happened, where 10 civilians, including 7 children, were taken out by a Hellfire missile which this administration was lying about from the very beginning, saying that this was a, quote, preemptive strike against ISIS-K members that were about to attack the U.S. Embassy. The media bought that lie. It sold it to the American people, and now we're finding out that the exact opposite was true. And now the Pentagon won't even be punishing anyone for this absolute travesty of injustice that extrajudicially assassinated 10 innocent people from this world, including 7 children. Who is punished, though? Well, the people trying to tell you the truth of exactly what's happening here. Individuals like Daniel Hale, who was sentenced to 45 months in prison for trying to leak information about U.S. drone warfare. And of course, let's not forget Julian Assange, that has been put in solitary confinement, has been tortured, has been absolutely run through the ringer from the U.S. intelligence agencies that have a vendetta against them, since, of course, he exposed the atrocities that were committed, that were covered up, that were lied about by the U.S. military and, of course, the military-industrial complex, which, of course, there's endless money for, so much money that the United States has to print it, causing, of course, wild inflation, which the corporate media obfuscates themselves. And there's enough money to go around. They literally printed it out of thin air. They're just choosing to give it to their friends to do awful, horrible, unspeakable actions on the face of this earth. And essentially what they're doing, the left wing, the right wing, the Democrats, the Republicans, the liberals, and the conservatives, all a part of this political two-partied snake, are screwing you over. And they're doing it together, colluding, and somehow still convincing people that you should support the lesser of two evils, when in reality it is one evil monster that we're dealing with here that's pretending to be different. And as an independent media organization, this is why we have been attacked by left-wing corporate media establishment institutions, and of course also right-wing corporate media establishment institutions, since of course we like to routinely call both of them out. And if you like that, you could very easily support us and continue our work and help expand it by going to wearechange.org/donate, where you could mail us anything you want, support us just by shopping for Christmas gifts, support us with crypto endeavors that cost you no money, or you could use Venmo, Cash App, cryptocurrencies, you name it. There's ways to support us and keep us up and running, including, of course, checking out our crazy t-shirt store and signing up to LukeUncensored.com, where we will be doing yet another video later on today detailing some explosive bombshells given off by Dr. Fauci when he was talking to Mark Zuckerberg on March 26, 2020. What he was saying then, we were theorizing and going over, and man, does this guy have an absolutely horrible record, which we are going to be talking about exclusively on LukeUncensored.com. I hope to see you guys join the conversation later on today. We're also going to be playing this video in full of Dr. Peter McCullough on Joe Rogan, talking about his scientific discoveries and findings, accusing the state of promoting fear, suffering, isolation, hospitalization, and death in order to promote the promotion of a procedure. Now, the accusations by Dr. Peter McCullough definitely do ring true, especially with some of the propaganda efforts that have been employed during this entire saga that were absolutely sensationalistic, absolutely filled with fear-mongering, creating and over-exacerbating an emergency situation that a lot of people within the state, within the government, took into their own hands for their own political benefit. And of course, the benefit of the state, which even the latest Times Person of the Year, Elon Musk, is specifically calling out in his Time interview, saying that he's against forcing people to take a procedure. It's something that, quote, we should not do in America, according to Elon Musk. And I absolutely agree with him. And seeing one of the world's richest people make this statement against the narrative, against the propaganda that has been pushed by corporate media and the establishment so aggressively is refreshing and good to see, because discriminating, firing, and segregating people based on a procedure, while of course stopping the free flow of finance and capital for the pure benefit of the state, is absolutely crazy, according to my own personal opinion and perspective from everything. Those calls of countering the narrative have also been joined by U.S. Senator Rand Paul, that just came out publicly on Fox News and warned that a lot of these mandates are, quote, about conditioning the American individual to submit to government. And I have to agree with him here as well, as of course there's an overabundance of evidence that suggests that this is the overall goal here, along with a social credit score, along of course with many people prioritizing political power over science and the personal well-being of the citizenry. U.S. Senator Rand Paul also warned that as long as Americans continue to submit to the government when it comes to mandates, restrictions, lockdowns, and these other protocols and decrees, that, quote, the mandates and future erosion of freedoms will never end. And with many people who have complied, one of the things that they have to show for it is the erosion of their personal freedoms, their liberties, their ability to be able to live their lives, and their access to any possible financial future, which is being gobbled up by many multinational corporations that are seeing, of course, record profits. And the surveillance state is already being implemented in other parts of the world, like in South Korea, where they have officially announced the use of artificial intelligence facial recognition technology to make sure people are complying with the demands of government. Mises just wrote an article saying how, quote, they'll use the welfare state to get compliance on the mandates, as already a Democratic state lawmaker in Illinois introduced legislation requiring people who haven't complied to pay out of pocket for healthcare services, with even other alleged right-wingers like David Frum calling for hospitals to quietly deny services to people who didn't take this procedure, which is absolutely cruel and inhumane, but part and parcel with the latest narrative and propaganda efforts that have been unfolding in this country. Propaganda efforts that, of course, will most likely be made a lot worse, as we're finding out today that Peter Daszak, the Wuhan lab partner, the EcoHealth Alliance head, is now going to be joining New York's response effort when it comes to this sickness. And if this man hasn't already imposed his will on the world, well, he's going to make sure that happens in New York, which life is surely about to get a lot more absurd in, if it's already not. Meanwhile, the fear propaganda is not ending anytime soon. The beat of it just changed a little bit, as we're getting corporate media articles warning that there's going to be a, quote, 50% surge of new infections and that tens of thousands of people will die from this new Omicron variant, which so far as we know of, one person allegedly passed away with the sickness in the United Kingdom, which of course the UK government is refusing to reveal the details about. As of course they're choosing to say that he passed away with this variant and not of this variant. And as the governments become less and less transparent, it's also important to note that in South Africa, according to the Telegraph, they are, quote, dealing with the situation that indicates that this Omicron outbreak is, quote, running out of steam. And according to one expert in the Telegraph, the world has nothing to fear. Even the scientist that discovered this particular variant is saying that the UK government is overreacting to this particular variant and could create a situation where it could help people achieve herd immunity and bring an end to this utter nonsense that started in Wuhan, China. This is all the latest data showing, highlighting, right in your face, that people who don't take the procedure are dealing with mild cases of this. While, of course, the CDC is reporting that the people who have complied with the procedure are the majority of the cases. Highlighting, of course, what Dr. Fauci told Mark Zuckerberg in March of 2020, which we're going to be talking about on LukeUncensored.com in just a little bit, with yet a second video only available to members of LukeUncensored.com. Click on the link to find out more before the end of this video, as there's a lot of data, a lot of scientific findings that are definitely worth discussing, but we can't discuss them here. But with that evidence right in everyone's face, what in the world is the UK government doing? Why do we still have fear-mongering by some corporate media institutions about this, when some scientists are saying it's the best possibility, the best scenario for the general public? Well, I would say what's best for the general public is not best for the ruling elites. And that's why I think there could be a possible concerted effort in order to, just screw you over more. That's my opinion. That's my perspective. If you think I'm wrong in any way, shape, or form, let me know why down in the comment section below. I always appreciate your constructive criticism. I always appreciate your input because I don't always get things right. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not here giving you any medical advice. But I think it's very fair to say that there is an overabundant amount of evidence that is showing that everything stinks to high heaven that's going on right now. And luckily, we still have some voices in the mainstream that are willing to talk against it. Not all hope is lost. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for a lot more here on wearechange.org. Love you.